Right, morning. Welcome everybody. Again, some glorious rain, Ed, you'll be pleased to hear overnight. I know you love the stuff over there in the UK, but we really do love it here. It's absolutely vital and necessary, and it's been great to have some good rain over the last few days. So this morning we're talking about standing up and being counted, Lee. I think is that was the topic. You know, what are you prepared to stand in the firing line for? So yeah, I'll hand over to you to take us into the session.
Thanks, Ivan. I always love it when I have a story that was sort of just happened that seems so in line with the topic. And yesterday we've had electrical problems since Saturday, and eventually some in our house eventually got an electrician around. He's a young chap that we've worked with for many years. So he came round to the house yesterday, and he started by asking this question. So if you heard rumors about another lockdown happening, and I just thought he was making conversation until I realized he was laying a trail of crumbs to draw me into a conversation. In fact, it wasn't a conversation. It was him not just persuading me, but it was him ardently, almost pleading with me to beware of the dangers of the coronavirus vaccine. That it starts with the fact that the virus doesn't exist. And when I asked him, you know, what would be the purpose of leaders deciding that this was not that this thing did exist and that they were locking down, and he said, leaders lie. That's what they do. And then he went on to explain about nanobots and CRISPR technology being used in these vaccines, and they were going to change our DNA. And this was the plot of evil people. This was his soapbox. He was trying to save my life. And I appreciated his passion in that moment. But it was amazing to me that he's so passionately wrong. And that's my soapbox, right? I don't see any. So I spoke to the lady that works in my house. I said to her, so if they, when they come up with a vaccine for the coronavirus, will you get it? She said, no. I said, but why not? She said, oh, no, they'll kill me with that. So I said, but were you vaccinated when you were a child? Yes, but I didn't know any better. But I said, but that saved your life when you were vaccinated. And she said, no, but I didn't know then. I said, but you've had a child. Did you vaccinate your child? Yes, but what's my soapbox? It's this. First of all, I do believe in vaccines. I think they save people's lives. I think I think they're a miracle that have been saving people's lives. I grew up in a time when polio still existed. It hardly exists anymore. And to think that people are now putting other people's lives at risk for these conspiracy theories. And then actually when I asked my domestic, so why do you believe this? She said, have you seen the movie? Well, no, I haven't seen the movie. But so that's my other soapbox, and I'm going to stop there with this one, is this absolute mistrust of our leaders, because they have been lying to us. They keep telling us about fake news. And so we no longer know the difference between what's true and what's false, that we can't trust evidence because it's been tampered with or whatever the case may be. And the integrity of leadership is now really questioned at every level with this plethora of conspiracies. So I don't know what I'm standing for, but I stand for vaccines and I stand for good ethical leadership. So I'm giving everybody the chance to be on their soapbox today. So off you go.
All right, thanks, Lee. But what does it mean when you stand for it? I mean, what are you prepared to do? All right, good. Okay, so Trevor Carty, he's standing about the moment, but looks like he's walking around. It looks like a toilet roll in the corner, Trevor. So I'm not too sure we'd be talking to you right now, but
the light.
Oh, the light.
It's a very classy, classic light.
Oh, okay.
Stand for classy, classic lighting. So yeah, it's this is a soapbox topic of note, Lee, and I don't command a lot of time in the morning, but I'm looking at the watch there and I'm thinking, I'm not sure anyone else is going to get another shot today. There's a few things that I really stand for. And probably the most important is love. Not negotiable. And as you sow, so you will reap. So we must watch what we sow, because if we're sowing the wrong stuff, we're going to reap the wrong stuff. And if we try and sow whatever it is in love, hopefully we'll reap something in love. So, and it's a function of, I think, the reason we actually all here, and what were we created for, and why were we given these different gifts and talents and skill sets, and why is leadership just so poor, or so perceived to be full of lies? And I'm going to come back to what you sow, so you will reap. And if your foundation of sowing is not love, well, your harvest will be similarly probably not of love. So the reality is, what is love? So here's my favorite topic. It starts with that little introspection. What is love? And if love is what love is, do I start by loving myself? Because if I don't love myself, how am I ever going to be able to love anyone else? More importantly, if the largest, most widely read book in the world purports that the primary objective is to love our Creator and then to love our neighbor as we love ourselves, this is now interesting. So there's a good word, encouraging people. Edward, I love that, encouraging people. So coming back to what do I stand for and what's not negotiable? Nice cup of Elvis coffee, really good. But what's not negotiable is to share love, to just do unto others as you would hope to have done unto you. And if you can understand that where you have blown it, where you have sown the wrong seed, that you can humble yourself and ask for some forgiveness, maybe you will reap mercy. Maybe you will reap grace. But until then, just sow love, sow love, sow love. And I love being with you guys because it gives me a chance just to remind me that even with Trevor Nell, I still sow love.
Thanks, Trevor. That was so lovely. Good. All right. Thanks. Right, Ed, let's get across to you next.
Yeah. I love it when Lee speaks, because I read the email and you know that I'm bang on about read the question and answer it. And then Lee takes us off in a slightly different direction. I think, wow, is what I prepared appropriate? And the question she set was, what are we passionate about, or what we're going to stand up for, and why? And yesterday, she quite rightly said that I call myself an environmentalist, and she asked me why. And that stopped me dead, really, because I didn't know the answer. I kind of thought, well, I could say, well, I've never asked why I breathe, and being an environmentalist to me is the same as why I breathe. But I thought, no, let's just answer the question. So I did some thinking, and it was a very useful exercise. And I came up with the answer of why I'm so passionate, and I'll stand up for and I'll talk about the environment, and I'll take action. And it's all to do with methemoglobinemia. That might need a bit of explanation if you're not a scientist or a biologist. Methemoglobinemia is a blood condition where you can't deliver oxygen to the cells. So it's quite serious. And acute methemoglobinemia can be caused by an intake of too many nitrates. And it's particularly, babies up to the age of 6 months are particularly vulnerable because of the way their digestive systems work. They're designed to digest milk, and therefore, for the first 6 months, their digestive systems are slightly different from adults. So they're very susceptible to nitrate levels. Now, in 1969, in Northeast England, this was when I was 15, women were advised not to bottle feed their babies with formula made up with tap water, because the water supply was too polluted by nitrates caused by runoff of fertilizers from farmers' fields. Now, had they been breastfeeding, it wouldn't have been a problem, because the adult human body can cope with nitrates quite nicely, and it doesn't appear in breast milk. It's only when people bottle feed. So I thought, Christ, if we are poisoning our children, what the earth are we doing with the little things I love? I love slow worms and stick insects and crickets. I love trees. I love all that sort of stuff. And that really shocked me. We are killing our children. What are we doing to the planet? And that's when I first started being an environmentalist. And it's very interesting, because the whole problem was they couldn't remove the nitrates from the water supply, because the way of doing it then was to dilute the polluted water with clean water. And in the Northeast, all the water was polluted from runoff from fertilizers on fields. The other thing that kind of started me, and it started my hatred of big business, was at roughly the same time, Procter & Gamble were promoting their formula feed in Pakistan. Now, nitrates occur naturally in well water. And so women who were breastfeeding were persuaded by Cow and Gate to then use formula. And they were making it up with well water, some of which had the nitrates in, but also they were making it up with dirty water. And again, they were killing their babies when they were breastfeeding, fine. But of course, Procter & Gamble can't make money out of breastfeeding. So that's why I became an environmentalist, and that's why I rage against big business. All down to, in 1969, that one story. I was doing biology at school at the time. We had to go off and find a story and do the research behind it. And that one story started my whole journey. And we still see it today. You know, we're quite happy to cut down rainforests. We're quite happy to kill fish. It's interesting you talk about vaccines, because I'm a big pro-vaccine person. The doctor that said you're going to die, Edward, if you don't get some exercise, he got really upset about anti-vaxxers. He said they ought to go and look at the graveyards and look at the age of some of the children who've died of measles, who've died of smallpox. But interesting thing is, I won't have the flu vaccine, because for the over 65s, they add an extra thing to it, and it's made from the livers of sharks. And there is a plant alternative, but they won't use it because it's too expensive. So that's my whole thoughts around the environment, around saving the environment. I just love it. I love being out, trail running, man. I love being in nature. But also I love being alive, and being alive, we need nature to keep us alive.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ed. Yeah, some interesting insights there that I haven't heard before. So thank you for that. All right, Vinay, let's come across to you next.
Thank you, Ivan. I can't say that I've actually found my true passion and something that I'm as passionate about as Edward is about the environment. Yes, I recycle, but yes, I help people. I try and live a life that doesn't hurt anybody. I try and do things to the best of what I think is a good value system that I have. But I haven't, at the great age of 56, found the one thing that I'm truly passionate about. I can have a passionate argument about many things, like the anti-vaxxers. It's incomprehensible. I like the environment, but I can't say that I've given myself fully to a truly passionate idea that I have. So, Lee, I'm sorry, but I can't fully answer your questions. I will tell you about my philosophy of life, which I've had for the last 20 years, and I think I've lived it well, is that if anybody in my life dies, I don't want to have regrets. And I never want to lie on my deathbed, and have a regret. And for the last 20 years, I've lived my life like that. And I believe it is a good way to live your life. If I hurt somebody, I apologize. There's nobody that, if they died tomorrow, I would say I should have. And I believe it's a really true to yourself way to live your life. And I have a clear conscience. And I think that is the one. It's not really a passion that I have, but it's a very strong motto that I have in my life. I never want to let somebody down where I could have avoided it. So yeah, on a slight sideline, but that is my contribution this morning. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Renee. Yeah, look, I think it's what it's all about, deciding what you want to do and then living it out, because lots of people think they know what they want to do, but they never do anything about it. And then I think that's the real challenge for me. So, right, Donovan, let's get across to you next.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, I couldn't really follow exactly what the discussion was, but I'm basing my comments on the original topic of standing up and be counted. Obviously, you need to stand up for what is worth it, because you expose yourself to, all sorts of attacks. So if you've got a strong case or a strong reason to stand up, you should be able to withstand any resistance, any opposition, and whether you win or lose at the end of the day, at least you are true to yourself. You're standing up for something that you believe in, something that's worth fighting for. Yeah, that's all I can.
Okay, thanks, Donovan. All right, Jasper and Llewellyn, let's get across to the two of you. I trust you've been debating this between yourselves while we've been listening to everybody else.
Morning. Now, as we go, I have a story to tell about each of you. So Llewellyn is getting my version of who you are, not your version. So as people get their chance to share, I then give it context, so to speak. But yeah, so Llewellyn and myself now know each other many, many years, going back to, I think, 1981, when I lived in Somerset West. He's from Somerset West, and he was we met each other in a military camp, and none of us wanted to be there for that month. But if that camp served only that one purpose, we then became friends, and today, we're still great friends, and as families have traveled overseas many, many times, and him and his wife were the ones that led Helen and me in the early days to Golden Products, that is now called New Life. So that started off my career in that business, which led to GIG, and which led to all the other things. So this is Llewellyn. So he can just tell a little bit about himself, where he comes from.
Well, morning, people. Nice to be here. We are visiting here for a few days, and basically on a pretty active business trip. Getting the gist of your few people that shared something this morning. But before I get there, I always say to Jasper, he's my intelligent friend. If I need to talk to other intelligent people, I first phone him to ask him, what should I say so that I make some meaning to other people. So I've also got one of those meetings this morning with my co-shareholder in a business which I retired out of 2 years ago. But I think from passion and whatever is to live with the expectancy and to live with faith and to get the I, the whole world is I, and self-fulfilling. And I think life is when you change your heart, it's what can you mean to others, and what can you sow, as Trevor has said, and the seeds, whatever we sow, produce of its own kind. And just have a watch to the tongue which can cause so much danger and also so much love. Good, thanks, folks.
All right, yeah, thanks. And I gathered from Lee's passionate introduction that I'm also happy to see Trevor now then passionately disagree with her on the vaccine side. And I'm sure we will have, if that was the topic, we would have quite a lively conversation on that. But I believe the topic is your soapbox. What are you passionate about? And then that makes it easy, because I think my whole journey up till now has led me to the point that, and I think it was Trevor Carty told the story yesterday of the starfish. I can't make a difference to all the starfish, but I can make a difference to that one. And it's basically what I've embarked on, to say all of us can do something about a situation on a small scale. And I just started to dedicate my life to say, if there are people like me and all of us here on the platform, how can we now then systemize it? So instead of me just making a difference to one, how can we systematically make a difference to a lot of people? So many of the institutions that I'm then involved in today, like the Generational Inheritance Group, that take families on their journey from struggle to significance, and what we're now doing in the chamber to take businesses from startup to significance, is basically then my contribution to say we can make a difference. But the criteria is you can only make a difference with like-minded people. So we're not there to try and convince a person against his wish. If he wants to stay poor and if he wants to stay in struggle, then you can't help him. But at least for those who want to make the change, then help people to get out of the struggle. So like-mindedness is a criteria. And then the other thing is, don't worry about what you can't do. I think we are so fixated on what we can't do and what is wrong in the world. And then we have long arguments and spend fruitless hours of debating what's wrong in the world, instead of saying, what do we have right now that we can do? And then start with a little bit that you can do. And then for me, the other one is a constant journey to say, who can I work with? In other words, who are already in this market in some way or a capacity or another, so that I can learn how to collaborate. So collaborate is a very strong value for me. And then it's also allowed time. You know, it took people's individuals' lives 30, 40, 50 years to get into the mess they are. So why do they think they're going to fix it in 2 days or 2 weeks? The same with businesses, the same with our country's problems that's been building up over many, many years. So allow time, but don't worry about the big things that you can't do. And also don't take your input from the social media and from the news and from government, because that's organized or what do you call it, program information. But once you set up your mind on what you want to do, and again, my topic is we can make a difference, then stay the course. In spite of on a day-to-day basis, you might not see progress, but week to week or month to month, and sometimes you have to give it a year to look back and say, have we made progress? And I think if you then stay focused with the right group of people, like-minded people that are as visionary as you are and as capable as you are in doing what they're doing, I think we can make a difference.
Great, thanks, Jasper and Llewellyn. Appreciate those insights and inputs. Right, Trivanel, let's get across to you.
Right, so welcome Llewellyn and Ed. I sympathize with you. I spent a sleepless night, almost 36 hours working on this topic, and I get on your late having finished it and find that Lee has switched the direction of the topic. So I'm 100% with you. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to put a link into the chat facility that people can go and refer to. And just for those that don't know some of my background, after about 45 odd years on this planet, someone wanted to actually evaluate me to get an idea of how it is that I actually think compared to other entrepreneurs. And part of that evaluation, they came up with this concept that I'm actually a martyr. And by that, they actually turned around and said, I feel so sorry for the weak and bullied that I actually stand up for them. So you know, all those poor, weak and bullied on this platform, Ed, you can understand why I stand up for you every time that you actually come on board. But it was quite interesting because this concept of what do you stand up for? That came out from yesterday. What is your soapbox? What do you do? I've done it many times. And it has, if I go back and analyze it, it has because I've seen someone has been badly affected or someone is bullying a group of people in a system. And perhaps the biggest example of what happened here is in that link. I wrote about it in the year 2000 when we'd been 6 odd years into the democracy, new democracy of South Africa. And in our lovely suburb, we had for 6 months AK-47 wielding individuals who were just taking the opportunity to take out old ladies. They were breaking into homes. They were running around. We were spending fortunes with about 12 different security companies, and these people were just running amok in a territory of around 3,000 suburban homes. And my neighbor had to get taken out, took 7 AK-47 bullets to the body. But the worst thing that happened is they stripped my moor. So someone please interpret that for the nice people around here. And what I threatened to do was to take my neighbor's leg, which was basically off. And if he died, I was going to slap that leg around everyone's face in every home because they weren't getting off their backsides. So that clearly made me far more popular than Donald Trump. But within 6 weeks, we had put together a concept here, raised over R1 million for a technically bankrupt community and completely changed security for open environments, not only here, but around the whole of South Africa. And in fact, I was being interviewed by Australian TV, America TV, because they wanted to know how this community actually eradicated crime almost overnight in this community. So it's a huge story. But what it was about was actually standing up and saying, stuff you all. Here's where I believe I've got right on my side. And those that actually want to come with me, come with me. The rest of you, go and get stuffed. And it was a presentation of, this is where I see the truth being. Come in with us or go in along your own direction. And it completely changed that. And about a year ago, we broke over R1 billion in this initiative, completely restyled just by a simple strategic tweak. But in that story, I talk about, as someone who stands up on a soapbox, you actually can't stand up on a soapbox and say, please, everyone else do what I'm asking you to do. You have to become tactical and you have to get into the front line. So when I hear someone like Ed turn around and say, hey, these are things that I want to do. I want to change the way people actually see global climate change. The problem that I see for Ed is you've actually got to be out there in the front line, like this young girl, Greta Schoenenberg. I see she gave Trump a rocket today, which was quite fun. But you've actually got to put yourself out there and you're going to take a few arrows in the front line. But you know, hopefully if you go into that link, you'll find some of the story. I think it's all about strategy. I think it's all about tactics. I think it's everything that we have to do in life and business. And I want to add to where Trevor Carty was. He talks of love. Difficult word for me, because I know where Trevor Carty is coming from. I look at him and I say, do I want him to love me? Not at all. So really what I believe people have got to be thinking of is everything that I do, can I evaluate whether it will add positive value to society or whether it will take away from society? And I think those who add positive value to society cannot put their fingers in the cookie jar and steal millions of dollars from poor people that are waiting to have houses in communities. And if you just balance out whatever it is that you're doing, on that basis, do I add value to society or do I take it away from society? You are making a great influence in the world if you're on the right side of the equation. That was my rant.
Thanks, Trevor. Yeah, we can clearly see who the soapbox operators are in this group. and good, you know, we absolutely need people like that. Must be completely honest, I'm not a soapbox operator at all. I tend to be one of the backroom boys, you know, looking at things logically and quietly and calmly. But I absolutely agree with you know, many of the sentiments that have been made around here in terms of, you know, you've got to do what you really feel is right for you to do and stick to that, you know. And I think I spoke briefly yesterday at the end of our session about values, and for me, I think that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day. You know, if you truly know what your values are, it doesn't matter whether you, you know, the man up front standing on the soapbox taking the arrows in the front line, or whether you, the person quietly in the background, just working away at things. And you know, if those things that you're doing meet your value system and you're clear on those values, then, you know, I think you're doing the right stuff. So that's my little bit of input on that. So Lee, I think over to you to wrap up quickly and tell us what might be on the cards for Monday.
I'm at a loss. What I think I'm saying on the topic doesn't seem to so I'm obviously not a very good communicator. So that's what I'm now questioning myself. Yeah, I mean, what do you, I think I'll just open up. Is there anything that anybody's passionate about that they want to talk about on Monday? I know that Trevor Carty did send a message to me saying that he would like to talk about wellness. So, and just our, yeah, I mean, what is it that we're doing to care for our wellness rather than our illness? So he was putting those two things together. Shall we talk about that?
No. Can I come in? You see, it wants to go in there. But can I make a suggestion and you write it onto your pad? The suggestion is there's a lot comes up every session about thinking of others versus putting yourself first. Putting others first versus putting yourself first. I know which side of the equation I'm on, and I'm extremely concerned about people who actually, well, so no, let me not influence the discussion there. So maybe that's a topic somewhere that we can really get into. What comes first?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we go with the wellness? Because I think there were a couple of thumbs up with that. And I actually think it will lead quite well into that topic, Trevor.
So I'll be absent on Monday. No, I'll be here on Monday. Don't worry about it. I'm here.
And then I also want to just give a heads up, Verne. One of the things we do as part of Wisdoms is to listen to people's stories and just share a little bit from our life story. So we've all had an opportunity to do that. And so, yeah, I'm just mentioning it to you and just asking if you would consider it at some point in time. And we'll send you a couple of links of some of the other stories that people have shared so that you've got an idea of directions people went. But the point is that we believe that every person has wisdom that comes through from the experience that they've lived in their lives. So if you could just...
I'll give it some thought.
Give it some thought.
You can send me the links.
Lovely, lovely. Thanks, Verne. Okay, bye everyone.
Right, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend. Verne, try and sleep and don't worry too much about your story. But other than that, have a good weekend, everyone. We'll see you Monday morning. Go well. Cheers now.